Mercyful Fate originally disbanded in 1985, and by 1988, frontman King Diamond was releasing his third album called Them with his namesake band, and as he had already done multiple times since his career began, he made some changes to his signature makeup, as of course he has since done multiple times. And around that same time, the Them era for King Diamond in the late 80s, Kiss was already a few years into their quote-unquote unmasked era, which began in 1983 around the release of the Lick It Up album. But of course, in true Kiss fashion, even though they were not actively wearing makeup at that time, the makeup was in fact trademarked. I believe it was trademarked back in 1978, if I recall. So around the time that Them came out, Gene Simmons felt that King Diamond's makeup was looking a little too much like the Demon, so he had his lawyers send King Diamond a cease and desist over the makeup. And as you'll hear King Diamond explain in the clip that I'm about to show, it was not just the makeup that they took issue with. Here's King Diamond explaining the situation in a 1990 interview with Raw Power TV.
It's totally ridiculous. I received this letter from his lawyers out of the blue, totally. And it said that it had come to their attention that I had recently begun to wear makeup and that it was very similar to that of Gene Simmons, which, I've never in my life heard any fan or anybody not being able to see the difference between whether it was Gene Simmons or King Diamond he saw a picture of. Never in my life. I can see that on the Advocate album, for instance, my makeup is symmetric on each side. But when we did the Them album, it's even totally unsymmetric. So I don't know where he got that idea about. Furthermore, it said in the letter that I had adopted certain mannerisms of his, which I certainly hope not. But if I'm really moving around on stage like him, my God, that would be terrible. But the thing is that, just to make it totally ridiculous, the King Diamond show was supposed to be a copy of the old Kiss show.
There's a couple more minutes in that clip that's unrelated to Kiss. I'll put a link to that down below if you want to check it out. But yeah, it was not just King Diamond's makeup, but also his stage mannerisms that Gene was having issue with. And I also have some audio of Gene Simmons himself discussing the situation. I will play that in a minute, but first I want to take a look at this article. I believe it's from a 1989 issue of Raw Magazine, specifically the October 1989 issue, number 29 of Raw Magazine. There's a segment in the issue, Lipstick and Lawsuits, that focuses on this whole entire situation, actually really the immediate aftermath, it seems. King Diamond is quoted in this saying some of what he said in that clip that I just played about the makeup and the mannerisms being too similar and things like that. But he also said that his lawyers told him he had a 95% chance of winning a lawsuit if it got to that point, but he explains that it never did get that far for a few different reasons. One, it would have taken at least 2 years to get through it all, would have been very expensive, and during that entire process, he would not have been able to wear the makeup, so they reached a settlement where King Diamond altered his makeup, and from there it was all good. The timeline on all of this is a little bit shaky. I believe this image that's up on your screen now is the makeup after the settlement was made with some changes made. Not 100% sure, but I believe this is after the makeup was changed because of the settlement. But King Diamond does make a good point in that article about what could have happened for the image and likeness of bands and such in the future if there was in fact a full-blown lawsuit that Gene won. Here's what King Diamond said in that Raw Magazine interview. Can you imagine what could have happened if Gene Simmons had won in court? It could have opened the floodgates. John Bon Jovi could sue Europe vocalist Joey Tempest for ripping off his hairstyle. Rock and rollers would spend all of their time in legal battles. Anyway, I'm glad it's over. Suing someone over similar hairstyles in most cases is probably a bit of an exaggeration. I guess maybe unless a band in the 80s started that was trying to look like Flock of Seagulls or something. I don't know. But if that lawsuit were to have actually happened and Gene would have won, it definitely could have set a precedent, and not a very good one, for similar situations going forward. Although for what it's worth, Kiss was certainly not the first band to use makeup. Probably one of the earliest examples of a household name using makeup, along with Alice Cooper. But, it goes all the way back to the 60s. Arthur Brown did it as well. Possibly even before that, who knows? But that's neither here nor there. We are here to talk about Kiss and King Diamond. And while that was essentially the end of the saga, both parties have addressed it in much more recent years. Gene Simmons was actually a guest on Chris Jericho's podcast in 2017, where Jericho point blank asked Gene if he in fact sued King Diamond. Here's the audio from that exchange.
Did you sue King Diamond for his makeup? Did you send him cease and desist?
It's not his makeup.
It was looking kind of like yours for a while.
That's what we thought. So
right.
he stopped.
That was easy. Just send a letter over to him.
The letter is cheaper than testing us in court. We've never lost a case.
So,
And by the way, I'm a fan. I liked his stuff. I thought he was doing cool stuff. Make up your own stuff.
Sure,
Don't come into my house unless you're invited.
is somebody showing you these things? Like, Gene, check this out.
Fans.
Gotcha.
They're my eyes and ears all around the world. You find every bootlegger, everything. And I'm constantly sending stuff to our lawyers who are very happy to go after these guys and get checks.
King Diamond also addressed the entire saga in a 2022 interview with Metal Hammer, where he was answering questions from fans, and one fan asked if he has had any interaction with Gene following the cease and desist. Here's what King Diamond had to say. No, I haven't. I think that would be a lot of fun. I have no outstanding stuff with him. There's a lot of reasons why this happened. They had dropped their makeup around this time, but they still had the copyright on the look. I was never influenced by them. My influences were Peter Gabriel and Alice Cooper. I said, I don't have a lot of money that you can sue me for, but you have a lot of money that other people can sue you for. They were not the first to wear makeup. It never got to be a lawsuit, it just got stirred up. So there you have it, the end of the Gene Simmons and King Diamond saga. That's really about it, but I would love to know your thoughts. Was King Diamond's makeup an infringement on the demon? Or was Gene overreaching? And let me know what you think down below. But that is all that I got for you for right now. Thank you so much for hanging out. Feel free to drop a like and subscribe below if you feel like it, and I'll see you next time.